the keeper of the flame.
My name is Arthur. If you've ever sat by a fire like this, you know it does more than just warm your bones. It dances. It tells stories in its flickering light. It shows you faces from the past in its glowing embers. Tonight, as I watch these flames, I see the story of my life with Clara. And for the longest time, the most challenging chapter of our lives was the one I called the Great Unraveling. Clara is, the love of my life. For 42 years, she wasn't just my wife. She was the architect of our joy, the curator of our memories. Our home wasn't just a building. It was a living thing, breathed into existence by her. She remembered everything. Our son, Ben's first word, light, he said, reaching for a sunbeam. The anniversary of my father's passing, always marked by a quiet work, and her hand firmly in mine. She knew where every single Christmas ornament came from, a story for each one. She was the calendar, the historian, the beating heart of us. And then, slowly, like a tapestry beginning to fray at the edges, things started to change. It began with small things, a misplaced set of keys, which happens to anyone, a forgotten grocery item. I'd tease her. Getting absent-minded in your old age, my dear. She'd laugh it off, but her laugh had a new sharp edge to it, a nervous tremor. Then the tapestry began to unravel faster. She'd put the coffee grounds in the refrigerator. She'd start a sentence and then lose the thread entirely, her eyes clouding with a faint sentiment. Panicked fog. She became nervous, jumpy. The slightest unexpected sound, a dog barking, a plate clattering, would make her flinch. The woman who once soothed our son's nightmares with a voice like warm milk was now startled by her own shadow. The worst was the day she got lost driving home from the library, a route she'd driven 1,000 times. She called me, her voice a thin wire of panic.
Arthur, the streets, they don't look right. The church with the red door, it's gone. Where did it go?
My blood ran cold. The church with the red door is on Maple, honey. You're on the other side of town. Just stay put. I'm coming. I found her parked in a strip mall lot, her hands gripping the steering wheel, knuckles white. She was crying, silent, helpless tears that tore a hole right through me. When I opened her car door, she looked at me not with recognition, but with a desperate, animal relief.
I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry, Arthur. I don't know what's happening to me.
That was the moment the small things ended, and the last, great unraveling truly began. I tried to talk to her, to suggest we see a doctor, but it was like trying to hold water in my hands. She'd deflect, or get angry, quick, hot anger that was so unlike her.
I'm just tired, Arthur. Stop watching me like I'm some kind of specimen. I'm not losing my mind. I never said you were.
I never said you were. I bleed. But something's wrong. Let me help you. But she was adrift in a sea of confusion and fear, and she was pushing me away, the very person trying to throw her a lifeline. I felt so utterly alone. I'd sit in my armchair, in the very spot I'm in now, and stare into the empty fireplace. The house, once so full of her vibrant spirit, felt like a museum of a life we were no longer living. The silence was deafening. Our son, Ben, saw it during one of his visits. He's a good man, practical, an engineer. He sees a problem and wants to fix it.
Dad, this is beyond moments. This is serious. You can't just ignore this. She could have hurt herself driving. You need to get her to a neurologist. I can make some calls.
I know, Ben. I told him, my voice heavy. But she refuses. How do I force the woman I love to do something she's terrified of?
You don't force her, Dad. You lead her. You've always been our rock. You have to find a way.
Den's words stuck with me. You lead her. I wasn't leading. I was following her into the darkness, equally lost. I needed a new map. The turning point came from an unexpected place. Our 10-year-old granddaughter, Lily. She came over one afternoon, all sunshine and freckles, while Clara was napping. She was drawing at the kitchen table.
Grandpa, why is Grandma so scared all the time?
The question, so blunt and pure, shattered my last defenses. I don't know, sweetheart. I think she's forgetting how to not be scared. Lily looked at her drawing, a vibrant picture of our house with a huge smiling sun overhead. When I forget my spelling words, my teacher says to not try and remember the hard word, but to remember the story around it. The story helps the word come back. Out of the mouths of babes. The story helps the word come back. That was it. I had been trying to fix the broken pieces, the forgotten keys, the missed turns. I was fighting the unraveling. What if, instead, I started weaving again? Weaving a new tapestry, right over the old, frayed one. I stopped mentioning doctors. I stopped correcting her. Instead, I began to build a fortress of comfort around her. I established gentle routines. Every morning, I'd make her tea, the same way her mother used to. I put on the old jazz records we danced to when we were young. I started talking, not about the present she was struggling with, but about the past she still held dear. Remember, I'd say, the time we got caught in that downpour on our honeymoon in Maine? We ran laughing back to the inn, soaked to the bone, and they lit a fire for us in the room. Her eyes, which so often looked vacant, would slowly focus. A small smile would touch her lips.
You bought me that terrible oversized sweatshirt from the gift shop. It was scratchy, but I loved it.
Yes, I'd say, my heart soaring. Yes, you did. I became the keeper of our stories. I filled the house with photo albums. I labeled cabinets with gentle, handwritten signs. The cups live here. This is for the tea. I bought 100 nightlights, banishing every shadow that frightened her. Our world became smaller, warmer, safer. And then, one cool autumn evening, I led her out to the backyard, where I had set up 2 chairs facing a small, ready-to-light fire pit. It was the anniversary of our first date. Clara, I said, helping her into the chair, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. Do you know what today is? She looked at me, and for a moment, the fog was there. I saw the fear flicker, but then I struck a match and touched it to the kindling. The flames leapt up, orange and gold against the darkening blue sky. I began to talk. I told her the story of our first date in vivid detail. The movie we saw, the diner where we shared a milkshake, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear, and I'd seen the tiny star-shaped birthmark on her neck. As I spoke, watching the fire, I felt her hand slip into mine. And then she spoke. Her voice was quiet, but clear as a bell.
You were so nervous, you ordered a coffee and a root beer. You drank them both without even noticing.
I turned to her, my eyes brimming with tears. She was looking at me, truly looking at me. There was no fog, no fear. There was just Clara, my Clara. I was trying to impress you, I said, my voice thick with emotion.
You did, Arthur. You always have.
He remembered. Not everything, and not forever. The unraveling didn't magically stop, but in that moment, held in the warm storytelling light of the fire, the threads wove back together. We had found a new way to be. I was her memory, and she was my heart, and that was enough. We still have difficult days, days of confusion and silence, but we have more days like that one by the fire pit. Days of connection. I learned that love isn't just about remembering the past perfectly. It's about building a gentle, compassionate present. It's about being the keeper of each other's flames, especially when the winds of fear and forgetfulness blow. So, you see, this fire isn't just for warmth. It's a reminder. The reminder that even when things seem to be turning to ash, there is always, always a spark that can be nursed back to life. All it needs is a gentle breath, a patient hand, and a story worth telling. And so, our story finds its rhythm, not in a grand, sweeping cure, but in the quiet, daily acts of devotion. The diagnosis, when we finally and gently sought it, was what we feared, early-stage dementia. But by then, the word had lost some of its power to terrify us. We had already begun to build our fortress. Our life now is a tapestry of a different kind. It's woven with patience, with repetition, with the soft light of understanding. I am her scribe, her guide, her living memory, and she is my lesson in living in the present moment, in appreciating a sunbeam on the floor, the taste of a familiar soup, the simple comfort of a hand held tight. Ben and Lily are our anchors to the wider world. Ben comes every Sunday, his practical mind now focused not on fixing the unfixable, but on contributing to our new normal.
Look what I rigged up, Dad. Motion sensor lights for the hallway. No more fumbling for switches in the dark. And look, Mom, they glow a soft blue, like little stars.
And Clara will smile, her eyes crinkling at the corners. My own galaxy, she'll say, and in that moment, she is perfectly, wonderfully present. Lily is our greatest joy. She sees her grandmother not as someone who is forgetting, but as someone who enjoys simple stories. She will sit with Clara for hours, showing her the same picture book, telling her the same simple tale, and Clara will listen with the fresh wonder of a child. There is no pressure, no expectation, just pure, shared affection.
Oh, and the little rabbit found his way home because he remembered the smell of the clover and the shape of the old oak tree. Just like you remember, the way to the kitchen for cookies. Right, Grandma?
The cookies with the sprinkles in the blue tin. The last.
Yes, my love, I'll say from the doorway, my heart so full it aches. The blue tin. We still have our fires. Every evening it's our ritual. I light it, and we sit. Sometimes we talk. Sometimes we just listen to the logs crackle and pop, speaking a language older than words. Sometimes she tells me a story from the deep, well-preserved vault of her past, a memory from her childhood so vivid it's as if it happened yesterday. I listen as if I'm hearing it for the first time, and in a way I am, because I'm hearing it through her heart. The other evening, as the flames danced, she turned to me. Her face, lined with a lifetime of laughter and worry, was serene in the firelight.
Arthur,
Yes, my dear.
we've had a good life, haven't we?
I reached over and took her hand, the same hand I've held for over 4 decades. It felt familiar and precious, a sacred relic of our shared journey. The very best, Clara, I whispered, my voice steady and sure. And it's not over. We're still having it, right here, right now. She nodded, a slow, contented movement, and turned her gaze back to the fire. There was no confusion in her eyes, only a deep, peaceful recognition, a recognition of the warmth, of the safety, of the love that surrounded her. The love that was her home more than any house could ever be. So, you see, the happy ending isn't that she was healed. The happy ending is that our love it adapted, it softened, it learned to speak a new, quieter language. It learned that the most important memories aren't the dates or the addresses, but the feeling of being safe, of being cherished, of being known. The fire is burning low now, just a bed of glowing embers. They pulse with a warm, deep light, holding the heat of the day, ready to ignite the morning. It's time for bed, time to lead my Clara up the stairs, past our galaxy of little blue stars, to the peace of a shared night's rest. Our story continues. And I will be here, tomorrow, and for all the tomorrows after that, the keeper of her flame. You know, the most remarkable chapters of our lives are often the ones we never dared to write. I told you about our fortress, our quiet victory over the shadow. But the story didn't end there. Life, in its infinite and mysterious grace, had one more miracle in store for us. It was a Tuesday. I remember because the light coming through the kitchen window had that particular Tuesday morning quality, clean and full of promise. Clara was sitting at the table, her hands wrapped around her mug of tea, watching a sparrow hop on the feeder outside. I was content in our routine, in the gentle silence. And then she spoke. Her voice was different. Not the soft, sometimes distant voice of recent years, but clearer, more anchored.
Arthur, do you remember that clinical trial? The one Dr. Evans mentioned about a year ago? The one with the new neuroregenerative drug combined with targeted therapy?
I froze, the dish towel in my hand forgotten. We had discussed it, briefly, in Dr. Evans's office. It was a long shot, he said. promising, but in early stages. It required immense commitment, frequent trips to the city, a battery of tests. At the time, the very idea seemed too overwhelming for both of us. The fortress we had built was defensive. It wasn't meant for launching campaigns. "Clara," I said gently, sitting down across from her. "That was a long time ago, honey. We decided
it was too much. I was too scared. But I'm not scared now. Not like that. I look at you. I look at the lines on your face, my love, and I see the weight you carry for me. And I don't want you to just be my keeper. I want to be your partner again."
She reached across the table and took my hand. Her gaze was direct, lucid, and filled with a fierce, determined love I hadn't seen in years. It was Clara, my Clara, not just visiting, but back. Tears welled in my eyes. It was the biggest risk we could take. Hope is a dangerous thing. It can make a potential fall so much harder. But looking into her eyes, I saw not a patient, but a warrior. "Okay," I whispered, my voice cracking. "Okay, if you're ready to fight, then I'm your soldier." The next few months were a whirlwind. Our fortress walls came down, replaced by the sterile, bright corridors of the Research Institute. There were MRI scans that sounded like industrial machinery, IV drips, cognitive tests that made her frown in concentration. They were difficult days. Days of fatigue, of nausea, of despair when she felt no different. Ben was our rock.
You've got this, Mom. You're the strongest person I know. And Dad, you're her champion. Just one day at a time.
Lily, with the pure faith of a child, never doubted.
Grandma is getting a tune-up. The doctors are fixing the wires in her brain so all the stories can get through again.
And then, slowly, like the first green shoots after a long winter, we began to see changes. Not the absence of bad days, but the presence of good ones, strung together like pearls on a necklace. She started remembering the new, small things. The name of the nurse, Sarah, who always had a kind joke. The way to the cafeteria without my guidance. She began reading again, slowly, her finger tracing the lines, rediscovering the stories she loved. And then came the moment of truth. It was spring. We were in our backyard, by the rejuvenated flower beds she had started tending again. She was on her knees, planting marigolds, her hands covered in rich, dark soil. I was watching her, my heart a fragile bird in my chest. She sat back on her heels, wiping her forehead with the back of her hand, leaving a smudge of earth. She looked at the house, at the garden, and then at me, and she smiled. It was her full, unguarded, radiant smile.
"Arthur, the anniversary of our first date. We want to see The Sting. You held my hand in the dark theater, and your palm was sweaty. Afterward, we went to that little diner on Elm Street. You ordered a coffee and a root beer float because you couldn't decide and you were too nervous to eat."
She remembered, not just the story I had told her by the fire, but the details. The name of the movie, the name of the street, the feeling of my sweaty palm. It wasn't a recalled memory, it was a reclaimed one. I couldn't speak. I just walked over to her, knelt in the grass beside her, and pulled her into my arms. We stayed like that, two old souls kneeling in the earth, holding on to each other as if we had been saved from a shipwreck. And we had. The treatment wasn't a magic cure. Dr. Evans called it significant and sustained remission. The pathways in her brain had been reawakened, the frayed threads not just patched, but rewoven. She would always need to be careful to manage her energy, but the shadow of the great unraveling had lifted. Tonight, as I sit here with you by this fire, Clara is in the kitchen, humming an old jazz tune and baking Ben's favorite apple pie from scratch. She remembers the recipe. Our story now is one of a second chance, a bonus round of such profound sweetness. We don't waste a second of it. We travel to see the Grand Canyon Lily talks so much about. We dance in the kitchen, even with my creaky knees. We talk for hours, not just about the past, but about the future. The fire is beginning to die down now, its light soft and golden. But it doesn't feel like an ending, it feels like a promise. A promise of 1,000 more mornings, 1,000 more conversations, 1,000 more memories we will make, and, now, we will both keep. The greatest adventure isn't finding a way to live with the darkness, it's believing, with all your heart in the power of the light to return. And it did. For us, it truly, wonderfully did.